There are so many problems with CBC. Well, in fact, I've written a book on it, but what else is going on at the Canadian state broadcaster right now? A lot of anti-Semitism. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. And we're looking at the Trudeau government trying to say we need to change CBC. I would agree, except I don't agree with the path that they want to go on. They want to double funding. They want to take it out of the budget. They want to do all kinds of things to inoculate CBC from criticism, from having funding taken away. Well, that's not where everyone is in the country, especially Canada's Jewish community, who feel that they are under siege from a broadcaster that they're all forced to pay for, but that doesn't, well, often recognize or reflect the reality of Jewish Canadians. Joining me now is Richard Marceau. He is the Vice President of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs here in Canada. Joins me from Ottawa. Richard, thanks so much for the time.
Brian, thank you so much for having me.
You've launched a petition, you've launched a challenge to CBC over their coverage of the war between Israel and Hamas. Um, Look, there are good people at CBC. You know good people at CBC. I know good people at CBC. But that doesn't mean that their coverage is where it should be. And they have been platforming people, as you and your partners at Honest Reporting that you're doing this with have pointed out, that have ties to Hamas. Uh, how has this not been taken care of?
Well, as you pointed out, there are many problems with the CBC. There's so much money going on, Canadian taxpayers' money going to the CBC.
About 1.5 billion a year.
It's a lot of money. And Canadians, I think, deserve, if they are choosing to have a public broadcaster, they deserve a broadcaster that fulfills its mandate, a broadcaster that respects its license, that respects its journalistic standards. And in the current situation, none of this is happening. And that is why CJA and Honest Reporting Canada have made an intervention with the CRTC, pointing out that the CBC is operating outside of its license or not respecting its license because it's failing in its duty to be impartial, to be just, to be balanced, and to be fair.
Look, people will point to me and they'll say, well, Lilley's just a stooge for Israel. Lilley is paid by the Jews. These are all things said to me all the time. By the way, I'm not paid. If anyone wants to pay me, let's talk. But I take a position based on my own beliefs, but I'm a commentator, Richard. That's a very different position. And what you and Honest Reporting, point out very accurately is that you've got, let me just read down some of them. CBC employees taking anti-Israel positions on their own social media accounts while presenting themselves as neutral and objective journalists in reporting on the Middle East. That's a problem. CBC repeatedly platforming a Gaza-based quote unquote journalist who is notorious for his anti-Israel tirades and failing to disclose he's openly linked to Hamas sponsoring Iranian regime and its propaganda channel Press TV. And then CBC permitting journalists who have signed anti-Israel petitions to report on Israel in the Middle East. All of my pieces, Richard, are labeled as opinion, as commentary. And so people can take my position or not. I'm not pretending to be neutral. I am on the side of those who don't kidnap and kill babies. But having journalists pretend that they're neutral while they're signing petitions or making statements that would back the Hamas terrorist organization that did what we saw happen this week, I don't know how you do that.
Listen, you're hitting the nail on the head. There's a place in media for commentaries, and there basically everything goes. You have an opinion, you share it. There are debates, and it's healthy for democracy. When you are a reporter, you're supposed to be fair. You're supposed to be impartial. You're supposed to present facts. But when you are off your job, supposedly as a journalist, and then you go on social media and go on anti-Israel rants, how can we then trust? How can the viewer or the listener trust that this person will actually be fair in covering the Middle East? And God knows it's a complicated situation where things need to be properly explained and factual. So we have people who supposedly are presenting themselves as impartial, and they're not. So that is a big no-no for any journalist or any media organization, and that is where the places where CBC has failed in its respecting its mandate, its license, and I would say is failing Canadians.
the Every media organization has rules around social media. And we may not like it, but I've been called on the carpet for things that I've said on social media that my bosses say, look, you work for us and you are a reflection of our organization. And so you have to behave in a certain way. Um, I know CBC has those. Have you raised these issues with management or the ombudsman in the past and said, look, this is just not tenable. The fact that you've got people pretending to be neutral when their social media shows they're anything but.
We've had many interventions with the ombudsman, and some of the decisions of the ombudsman or opinions of the ombudsman have been good, others less. But even when there were good opinions, the follow-up was let's just say failed to satisfy to satisfy us. So it's a systemic problem, and that is why instead of simply going through the ombudsman this time, we went to the CRTC. The CBC has asked the CRTC for a license for an antenna someplace in rural Quebec, and we said, well, you know what? Actually, before saying yes to this, you have to make sure that CBC is operating within its mandate, it's respecting its license, it's respecting its journalistic standards, and it's not. So it's saying to the CRTC, you have to pay attention to the CBC, who is failing Canadians time and time again. And we have examples. We did not pull those out of thin air. We have files, we have pictures of social media, we
Mhm.
have videos. It's all included in our complaint to the CRTC. And if their CRTC is to be taken seriously, it has to make sure that it calls CBC on the carpet, to use your expression, and demand and expect explanations and justifications from the CBC. And if they're unsatisfied, and I think they should be, if they do their job seriously, then there should be serious consequences to the CBC.
Look, as someone who lived under CRTC rules for years, I have a lot of problems with that organization, but they are supposed to enforce the rules. And so kudos for you, to you and Honest Reporting for doing that. So people can sign a petition. You've got more than 20,000 people already signed. Is there a deadline for when you need people to sign up?
So there's no deadline. Please go and sign the petition. So we've
You
had
can go
that
to
complaint to
Siege website or Honest Reporting's website, sign the petition.
correct. So people have to speak. People have a voice, and we're realizing now the power of that voice. Don't let other people take your voices away. That's my message to Canadians. You're unsatisfied, raise your voice, because people have to pay attention. And let's not forget, within weeks, within months, there'll be elections in Canada. I think the CBC, the mandate, the role, maybe the existence of the CBC will be one of the debate, one of the issues, or some of the issues being debated. So now's the time to have your democratic voices as citizens of this country heard.
All right, Richard Marceau, thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you so much, Brian.
All right, let us know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and go sign that petition.